What's up everyone, I'm CallumOnToast, and in today's video I'm going to be showcasing some battles in the Sunshine Cup, running a team that I managed to go on an 18-game win streak with, by far the longest streak I've had this season, and probably my longest for quite a few seasons, and that team includes 3 buff Pokemon with the Dunsparce in the lead, and Piloswine and Shadow Mamoswine in the back. I honestly think that double Swine backline is incredibly underrated in this meta, as there are so many Pokemon weak to the Ice typing, and Powder Snow plus Icicle Spear are just so strong that they do very well even in neutral matchups. The team is obviously triple weak to fighting, but there really aren't any Pokemon with fighting type fast refresher, so you can get away with it. Now, I do want to make a disclaimer. Yesterday, I tried to run a triple crab team, and I pretty much did the reverse of today's win streak by winning just a single battle in 4 sets. So essentially today, I'm just regaining the elo that I lost yesterday, but actually, I do still think the team is very strong. Now, if you do enjoy this video with a team that you guys can actually use yourself for a change on this channel, please show your support and leave a like, as it really does help out the channel. Yesterday's video, despite the creativity and variety, is probably my worst performing video in literally years, having barely 3k views and like 10 comments after 24 hours. I know we're in an interlude season, so I do expect the views to continue to plummet the further we get into the season, but believe it or not, you guys can actually make a huge difference just by liking the video and commenting, as it helps push my video out to more viewers. Anyways, with that being said, let's just get into the question of the day. What do you think is the most underrated Pokemon in the early Sunshine Cup meta? Let me know in the comment section down below, and with that being said, let's get into the battles now. Let's go into the first battle here, leading the Dunsparce into a Kanto Ninetales. Honestly, not a bad matchup for us. Of course, we've got Rollout, we've got Drill Run, we've also got Body Slam, which is very spammy. However, they can still outspam us by going for a Fire Weather Ball. Either way, I'm going to go for one more Rollout, go for a Drill Run straight away. Drill Run is going to grab a shield, and now they swap into a Bomber Snow. I'm going to swap out, make a catch onto my Piloswine, recognizing my backline doesn't really appreciate the Ninetales there, although, if worse comes to worse, we do have high horsepower on both Pokemon. But either way, the opponent going to go for a second Weather Ball, dealing big damage there. However, we can fire back with an Icicle Spear. Icicle Spear is going to get them very low to the point where I can come in with either Pokemon. I'm actually going to come in with my Shadow Mamoswine here, get ahead on energy, as of course I do expect the Ninetales to come back in. However, Ember really not going to deal that much fast move pressure. They will of course still outpace me to the charge move, but I'm going to shield this. Remember, we've got energy onto Dunsparce, and they don't know that we're running Body Slam here, so we go for Body Slam, and it ends up grabbing the final shield. Not only that, the opponent comes in with a Jumpluff, so all we have to do here is make sure the opponent doesn't farm me down and come out with 100 energy, and that way I should be able to farm down with my Mamoswine, come out with the high horsepower loaded for that Ninetales in the lead, and we should be looking fine. So here the opponent is going to be forced to throw some energy. They go for an Aerial Ace, doesn't really matter. We come in with the Mamoswine, I can just safely shield up the charge move, commit to a full Powder Snow farm down. They're actually able to swap back into Ninetales, doesn't really matter though. High horsepower gets the one shot, one more Powder Snow, gets the farm down up against the Jumpluff, and I'm able to take that game. So, GG's to put in there into the next battle. We see Gastrodon in the lead. A little bit of a tricky Pokemon here. We are quite neutral into Gastrodon. I did think about running something that was a bit better into Gastrodon in the lead. However, then I'd be quite, well, I'm going to struggle quite a bit up against the Fire-type Pokemon if I run, say, a Grass-type or even like a Flying-type Pokemon. So here the opponent's going to come in, but they swap into Fearow. Now, I had seen a Yonkers top 10 video. By the way, congrats to Yonkers and Lily, as they just had a child, which is very exciting news there for them. So wishing them the best. But either way, this was a video that he put out with the top teams, and I believe it should be 2 cannon in the back. So at this point, I'm feeling pretty comfortable about this. So I'm going to come in. I'm just going to no-shield this as they fire off the Drill Run. They swap back into Gastrodon, so I'm going to overfarm and farm up to back-to-back Body Slams. Body Slam gets the KO there, but it's actually going to be a Diggersby in the back, so it wasn't the team I was expecting. And unfortunately, Shadow Mamoswine a lot less bulky than the Piloswine. I'm not actually going to be able to take a Fire Punch, even though it's non-stab from a bulky Pokemon like Diggersby. So at this point, we throw as late as possible here, but the opponent, Fire Punch, gets the KO there. We will be able to reach 2 Body Slams here on the CMP tie with the next Fire Punch, sorry. However, unfortunately, the quick attacks have added up over time. I think that we will not be able to roll out farm down the Fearow in the lead, and unfortunately, we do get farmed down there, but that is going to be my final loss before we go on our 18-game win streak. Now, I'm not going to showcase every single battle battle in that win streak because a lot of them were pretty comfortable wins here or just quite repetitive. But either way, we're going to see a Credilli in the lead. I swap out straight away into Mamoswine, and they don't have the best response. They come in with Forest, but they are so behind on energy. I can reach back-to-back Icicle Spears, and the second one is going to connect. It does big damage. Now here, we realize we win CMP, so I can shield even if they do go for Trailblaze, boost up their attack stats. I can just win CMP once again here. Icicle Spear is going to grab the final shield, and at this point, I'm fine with that. I can just come in with my Shadow Mamoswine and commit to a Powder Snow farm down. We don't get a huge farm down there, but it doesn't really matter. They come back in with Credilli. I do overfarm ever so slightly. An Icicle Spear, it's super effective. It gets the KO. They are double weak to ice. They come in with a Gligar, and this game is over. Icicle Spear, double super effective. It takes out the Gligar, and I'm able to take that game. So, GG's up on there, into the next battle. We're going to see a Lola Marowak in the lead here. So, this is a great matchup for me. The opponent's going to be safe swapping into Miltank. We are one turn ahead, so I'm actually just going to go straight for a Body Slam here. And this should guarantee that I can maintain alignment with my Mamoswine. Honestly, with the Powder Snow damage and the Body Slam there, we've already put them into the yellow health range. I should just be able to settle for the Icicle Spears here instead of full sending a high, a high horsepower. The opponent got a shield there, but they lose track of the energy, so I'm able to reach a second high, what the heck is going on with my commentary right now? Able to reach a second Icicle Spear. They swap back. They bank a ton of energy there. So you know what? I'm going to do the exact same thing. I'm going to bank a high horsepower and then swap into my Dunsparce. Of course, they're on Hex there, so dealing very minimal fast food pressure. They do full send a Flame Wheel, which is cool to see. However, we can go for Drill Run here. Drill Run going to hit for super effective damage, and it does barely just not quite take them out there, but it doesn't really matter too much. Bone Club also not going to get the KO. We get the rollout farm down, and they're going to come in with a Meowscarada. Now, this could be a little bit tricky since that Licky does have a ton of energy. However, I can just come in, snipe with the Mamoswine. Icicle Spear gets the KO. They come back in. Sorry, a Miltank. Man, my commentary is all over the place with this battle. But anyways, doesn't matter. Icicle Spear gets the KO up against the Miltank, not the Licky. And I'm able to take that game. So, GG's up on there, into the next battle. We're going to see a Jumpluff in the lead. This is a fine matchup for me, but what I don't really want to do is swap out into my Mamoswine and then get hit by an Energy Ball. So I'm actually going to wait to see what they throw here, and they do go for Energy Ball. So now we come in, of course, they've used their energy. They come in with a Skeledirge, but we do, of course, have coverage here. I'm full sending high horsepower. High horsepower is going to be shielded, unfortunately, and you can see we're just barely not going to reach another one. So maybe I can grab the second shield anyways, and the opponent is actually just going to play safe there, but the Dunsparce already has the Drill Run loaded, and Drill Run, turns out we're going to win CMP up against the Skeledirge. Drill Run coming through, also gets the KO there. That is huge for me. We now swap into Shadow Mamoswine. The opponent staying in with the Jumpluff. They're going to be fully farmed down, so now I'm going to shield this as they go for another Energy Ball. Their final Pokemon, going to be a Kanto Marowak. I farm up so much energy. This was completely unnecessary, but I did try to come out with a high horsepower loaded to go for a BM up against the Jumpluff. We actually don't get there in the end. Anyways, one more Powder Snow gets the farm down, and I'm able to take that game. So, GG's up on there, into the next battle. We're going to see a Toucannon in the lead. So, pretty good lead matchup for me. The opponent does make a swap there, catching onto a Licky. They're definitely a Licky this time around, not a Miltank. But we're going to come in with the Mamoswine, and I am going to no-shield the first move. They full send the Shadow Ball there. That's still fine with me. I believe they will tank a Icicle Spear fairly well here. So, I'm going to full send a high horsepower, and they're actually going to use a shield. Now, of course, I don't really need Switch Advantage because I've got Mamoswine and Dunsparce to take on the Toucannon in the lead there. So I'm going to come back in with the Dunsparce, and the opponent's going to swap into Clodsire. Now here, I don't know if this is a mistake. I guess I just didn't react in time. So at this point, I'm actually just going to stay and wait for the opponent to throw some energy. This is not an Earthquake, so I can tank this relatively comfortably. Swap into my Mamoswine. And now, you know what? I'm going to shield once and then commit to a massive Powder Snow farm down. Stone Edge, of course, would have hit for neutral damage there, so definitely going to shield that up. They're going to come back in with the Licky. I can win CMP here, and the opponent is going to shield, as of course, now they can get off the charge move. And that Toucannon is one away from a move, so I'm going to wait to see if they swap back into it, because now we can go for Icicle Spear. Icicle Spear gets the one shot there, and at this point, it's going to be game over. I can reach another charge move, didn't really matter. I believe the Dunsparce did have a charge move loaded, but Icicle Spear gets the KO, and I'm able to take that game. So, GG's up on their into next battle. We're going to see Talonflame in the lead, so a very good matchup for me. They're going to say swap into a Kanto Marowak. Now, if this was a Shadow, could be slightly more problematic for me. Because it's a non-Shadow, however, I can actually tank that Bone Club very comfortably and now farm up to very close to back-to-back Icicle Spears. First one is going to be no-shielded. They do just let it go down, but then they come in with a counter Obstagoon. Now, of course, counter, we are triple weak to it. However, it is non-stab counter. It's not going to deal that much damage, but the opponent makes my life a lot easier, so they just swap straight away back into the Talonflame. So I'm going to show the first charge move as they fire off a fly. I'm going to go for one rollout here, then go for a body slam, but I'm actually going to go for a slight undercharge, meaning I can get one more fast move to get the full farm down. They come back in with the Obstagoon, but I'm already at back-to-back body slams. So the first one, gonna be no shielded. Honestly, probably should have gone for Duron here just because it will do slightly more damage, but either way, it doesn't really matter. I can safely shield once with the Shadow Mamoswine and then commit to a full Powder Snow farm down. Of course, counters hitting hard, but we get that full farm down, and I'm able to take that game. So, GG's up on their into next battle. We see Ferrothorn in the lead. Now, this is a little bit of a tricky Pokemon here, but I'm going to swap into Piloswine, and the opponent comes in with a Diggersby. That is absolutely fine with me. I'm still going to hit for super effective damage here, and what's Fire Punch is super effective as well. Unlike the Mamoswine, first of all, we're not in our Shadow form, but also we are just a little bit bulkier anyways, so we're able to tank that relatively comfortably, and then reach another Icicle Spear, winning CMP, and the opponent is actually going to use a shield. At this point, I expect they don't really have a great answer to Ice type, so I come in with the Shadow Mamoswine, get ahead on energy, but they had a Blaziken in the back the entire time, so that is a very strange decision there. But either way, we're hitting so hard with the Powder Snows and the Icicle Spears that we actually force a shield. Now we've got a 2-shield advantage. Even though we don't really have the best matchups here, we're still looking to be in a decent position. As at this point, I'm going to no-shield the first move as they fire off a Power Whip. And then I'm not sure with the rollout damage if we can put them into range where a Drill Run will get the KO. So instead, what I'm going to do, shield that up there, farm up to back-to-back Drill Runs, and then get off just a couple of Powder Snows. And that guarantees a Drill Run will get the KO. I believe Blaziken does have a charge move loaded. However, I've still got a shield here. So I go for Drill Run. Drill Run gets the KO. We throw straight away here. Drill Run number 2, gotta be super effective. It gets the full-on one-shot up against the Blaziken, and I'm able to take that game. So, GG's up on their into next battle. You see Wigglytuff in the lead. So, my team is pretty neutral into Wigglytuff. I'm going to farm up here, throw on the CMP tie if they do go for a Swift. However, typically they are going to go for an Icy Wind first time around anyways to debuff my attack stat. Either way, I'm going to no-shield this. If they debuff me, I'm going to swap out into my Piloswine. Piloswine still going to be able to outpace them to that next charge move here as I go for an Icicle Spear, and the opponent is going to use a shield. Now, I do expect another Icy Wind. However, if they do go for Icy Wind, whilst yes, they debuff in my attack stat, I can shield and I can still commit to a full Powder Snow farm down. Now the opponent is thinking about what to do here. They are going to come in with a Clodsire, and you know what? We've got so much energy, I'm just going to bank all of it, as I was debuffed there, and then come in with my Shadow Mamoswine. The opponent comes in with the Gastrodon, but that does so much damage that I can shield once and commit to a full Powder Snow farm down. They do bait with a Body Slam, doesn't make a difference there. They're going to come back in with the Clodsire. I'm going to look to overfarm just a little bit here. If the opponent also goes for an overfarm, well, it's going to be game over, as we can go straight for Icicle Spear. This is super effective. It does huge damage, nearly gets the one-shot from that range. And at this point, they go for Stone Edge, so we can come in. We had back-to-back charge moves already loaded, but one Powder Snow gets the farm down, and I'm able to take that game. So, GG's up on their into next battle to see a Dunsparce in the lead. So, they are going to be slightly bulkier, but we are slightly spammier with Body Slam, and as well, Body Slam is going to hit for stat damage. So, I believe this is probably a slightly positive matchup for the Dunsparce. But again, I'm going to swap out anyways, coming in with my Piloswine. They go for a Rock Slide there, which is quite interesting, but then they come in with a Whiscash. Now, of course, they are a Water-type Pokemon, but they're going to take neutral damage from the Icicle Spears, and of course, they're on Mud Shot as well, so not dealing that much damage here. We can go for a second one, winning CMP. At this point, I'm just going to no-shield this. My bomb doesn't get the KO, so instead of giving them a huge farm down, I'm going to swap out straight away into my Shadow Mamoswine. And if the opponent doesn't swap out of this matchup, well, then it's going to be the Shadow Mamoswine that gets a huge farm down. They're now going to come in with the Dunsparce, but I'm full sending. High horsepower gets the one-shot. Their final Pokemon is going to be a Golurk. I can go straight for an Icicle Spear. Icicle Spear is going to grab the final shield. Whilst, yes, they can mod up farming down, I've easily put them into range where a single Duran will get the KO. So I throw straight away. Duran takes out the Shadow Golurk, and I'm able to take that game. So, GG's up on there into the next battle. We see Clodsire in the lead. I've got two ice types in the back that are going to resist the poison sting damage, so I'll swap out straight away into my Piloswine. Now, I'm quite far ahead on energy. I'm going to go for an Icicle Spear here. If they no-shield this, I can guarantee alignment in the two-shield scenario. Do I want to do that? Well, it looks like I will. So, I'm now going to overfarm. I'm going to throw just before they do reach that next Hydro Cannon. And if they do shield this, I'm actually happy to double shield. As I'm going to come out with a lot of energy, I will at least have an Icicle Spear already loaded, and of course, if that's their best answer to ice types, we should be looking pretty good here. The opponent actually going to come back in with the Clodsire, so you know what? We are full sending right now. High horsepower is going to connect. It does huge damage. I did consider swapping out there. You can see at the last second, I tried to swap out, but I just thought about it too late there. They're going to have a Credilli in the back, so they were double weak to the ice typing. However, of course, all shields are down. Icicle Spear grabs the final shield, and now I swap into my Dunsparce. Of course, we're not quite as bulky as Dunsparce, meaning a Rock Tomb and a Grass Knot might actually put me into farm down range, and that would be worst case scenario. However, the opponent not going to throw here. They're farming up to back-to-back charge moves, and as a result, we can reach another Drill Run. Drill Run gets the KO. We can actually resist it, roll up, farm down the Clodsire, and I'm able to take that game. So, GG's upon there into the next battle, the Dunsparce into Macargo. Of course, positive matchup for me. The opponent's going to swap out. I was expecting that to be a Gastrodon, so I swap out straight away into Piloswine, and they actually come in with a Water Gun Shadow Quagsire. This is very problematic for my team, actually a pretty big core breaker that I hadn't really thought about, but they full send a Stone Edge, and I was like, why on earth are you full sending Stone Edge there? What is your other charge move? Well, anyways, we're going to go and grab both shields from the opponent. And the Dunsparce does have a little bit of energy. I'm actually able to reach a Body Slam as we throw it on CMP. Body Slam barely doesn't get the KO, however, which is unfortunate. I can't really afford to use my final shield here, and they actually had Sludge Bomb, so it makes sense as to why they did go for the Stone Edge there. Up against my Piloswine, Sludge Bomb would have been resisted. Here, I make a very questionable decision. I swap into my Mamoswine into a Water-type Pokemon. However, high horsepower gets the one shot, and now I need to live 2 Incinerates. It's going to be so close, but Mamoswine hanging on with 1 HP and a dream. High horsepower gets the one shot. They can Water Gun farm me down, but one rollout gets the full farm down, and I'm able to take that game. So, GG's upon there into the next battle, Shadow Golurk in the lead. I'm going to be safe swapping into Piloswine. The opponent's going to swap into Gligar. They are so weak to ice types, and that is actually how quite a lot of these battles went. They just did not have an answer to Piloswine or Mamoswine, but GG to a trainer into the next battle. Going to see a Shadow Talonflame. So at this point, they're going to swap into Fire. I don't have a direct response here, but I am fairly neutral into it. So I'm going to go for a Body Slam here. They will outpace me, but unless they're running Brick Break, I should be fine. They go for Swift, which I can tank, and now I'm going to bank the energy and come in with the Piloswine. Now I look to throw on CMP, Piloswine wins CMP and gets the KO there, but they come back in with the Shadow Talonflame. Now they fire off a single Incinerate before swapping out here, so I'm forced to go for 4 Powder Snows and fire off the charge move to guarantee a shield there, getting off the energy before they do reach a charge move themselves. They go for Flame Charge, and now they swap into Serperior, but I'm a little bit slow to swap out there. And that is going to be significant because now they outpaced me to the first move. They go for Frenzy Plant. But I realized the opponent, that Talonflame, they are 1 away from another charge move. At this point, I can throw this. I go for an undercharge. I was hoping that wouldn't get the KO, but it does. And now the opponent gets the farm down. They come out with the move loaded, and they will win CMP. So despite the fact that I had so much energy here, Flame Charge gets the KO. And despite the fact that I did hard counter them in the lead, this trainer was the one to end that 18-game win streak. streak. But GG's to opponent there and into the final battle of this video, leading into a Shadow Giraffe rig. So this fight, I'm going to no-shield this, just going to be a Psychic Fangs. Will obviously make the confusion damage add up a ton, and I'm not certain that I can go for one more rollout and fire off another Body Slam. So instead, I'm going to swap into Mamoswine, but the opponent doesn't go for another Psychic Fangs, instead just opting to be fully farmed down there. I think, of course, they were trying to go for a Trailblaze, but they didn't get there in time. So at this point, I'm going to go for back-to-back Icicle Spears, not expecting this one to be shielded. However, that damage is going to be very nice for me, as it will put them into eventual farm down range. Now the opponent is going to swap into a Credilli there, which is such a strange decision. Of course, the opponent realizing they couldn't quite farm down with Blaziken, but as a result, I'm able to take that game. So that's going to be it for today's video. If you did enjoy it, please make sure you leave a like, leave a comment letting me know, and as well, don't forget to respond to the question of the day if you haven't done so already. And if you want to see more content like this in the future, make sure you hit that subscribe button and turn on post notifications. That way you'll be notified whenever I upload a new video. Now if you want to take your support to the next level, you can become a channel member with perks including early access to new videos, shoutouts at the end of each video, custom loyalty badges, and custom emojis to use in the comments of every video. I want to say a massive thank you to everyone that has become a channel member already. Your support is greatly appreciated. And with that being said, thank you so much for watching today's video, and I hope you have a great rest of your day.